Welcome back to Money in the Tank, and it's episode 48. So we are closing in on the magical 50, and I have my friend Brad with me. How are you, mate?
Oh, good, mate. I'm doing good. Coming to the end of the week, and been a big week. Been a big week on the markets. Been a big week personally, and looking forward to some relaxing time on the weekend, playing some poker. Actually, with the
Yeah,
boys.
I can't wait, mate. I'm super keen just for the tankers out there. We're getting together with our crew and having a big poker night at Brad's house, so it should be sweet.
Cannot wait, and I'm sure that will find its way into today's 50-50. And as we come on to, I think episode number 50, been actually getting more and more views, which is good. Found by the algorithm.
Hey, the algo,
The algorithm.
keep it regular.
So we'll keep it regular. But if you are out there, please give it a like, subscribe, or comment. It really, really helps us. So,
Yeah, and you can get us at Money in the Tank on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we like interaction anywhere. But if you want to, give us that like, comment, subscribe, like Brad said on YouTube, that's going to help us immensely. So
100%. So I know a lot of people listen to it in the car and on the podcast, but if you are listening to it on the visual cast, aka YouTube, please give it that like, comment, and subscribe. But so Brad Tabone, journalist and startup guy.
yeah, and I'm a finance professional. So what are we talking about today?
I thought we'll cover off something that some people may have missed. Others, if they were reading the news over the past week, could probably not have missed it. Which is, I think, we cover off, which is a very, very interesting one. Reason why I want to cover off today, which is around what happened to the UK pound versus US dollar. It's just been falling and falling and falling, especially over the last week. And kind of discussing, because I think it's really, really interesting that you've got, the IMF calling out a G8 country.
Yeah, a massive one at that. Yeah,
and a massive one at that. That's traditionally probably been nearly the center of finance, if you think about it, way before America.
yeah.
And so it was usually it's Turkey or something like that getting called out in terms of bad economic management. And this week, the UK got a bit of a slap from the IMF around basically their governing.
Yeah.
And so I thought we'd dive into today, and we're going to try something a bit different.
Yeah.
I've got lots of images, so today's probably a good one to be watching.
Before we dive in,
before we dive in, I just thought we'll at least talk about what's on for today, mate.
Yeah, but I've got a Rivkin handy, so we don't have Jolly. We don't have Jolly, as you guys can see, and he's got the Bible. I think we all need to try and source a hard copy of the Bible.
You know what? As you are looking, I'm going to go onto Amazon, and probably double the amount of sales of Rivkin rules instantly.
It hasn't been bought for a while. I'm relying upon a Quotes-Wise website here, and we've probably used this one before.
Currently unavailable.
See, it's a collector's item. People know, big Riv. So this is one which we might have used before, but it's also like a play on a very famous one. So this is from Rivkin. When taxi drivers start giving you tips, it's time to believe the bull market is nearing its end. And it's obviously a very famous
shoe shiners.
Yeah, a very famous derivative version of the shoe shine. Like when the shoe shine's giving you stock tips, that's the top of the market, time to sell. So,
and I think that we moved into strip clubs during 2008-09 when strippers start giving you property advice.
Oh yeah. Was that that part of the movie, The Big Short?
Yeah, The Big Short. Yeah. Yeah, she started telling him I own like 7 houses, and he was just like, "Oh dear, oh no, what's happening?" Not there's anything wrong with if you're an adult entertainer and you own 7 houses. Chances are these days, if you're doing OnlyFans and the rest of it, you're probably making bank. But
good coin.
Making good coin. But Rivkin, there we are.
Yeah, so just one today. No bang for the buck. Just the one.
No diving into the philosophical nature of our dear friend. I have found it on eBay books. Now it's in the US. $21 is going to cost on eBay, so I'll get it.
Plus shipping.
No, including shipping.
Oh, that's a bargain. Wait, but is that US dollars? Because that's like about $1 billion Aussie at the moment.
Don't even do that, because on Etsy I bought a bunch of stuff on Etsy to finish off my my den, and I thought I'd treat myself to some nice artwork. I got some books made in like custom leather and all custom designs and all the rest of it.
I have many leather-bound books.
Many leather-bound books. It smells of rich mahogany. Anyway, I may have been a bit inebriated at the time of doing this, and I looked at the total, and I went, "Oh no, oh no!" More than half the total was shipping.
That's awesome. I love it.
More than half was shipping. So it came to very, very, very expensive books from America. Let's just say that. My mum came over the weekend and was not impressed. Mama Tabone was not happy with $300 books, mate.
You should have hit it with the Big Lebowski. It really ties the room together.
It really ties the room together. But anyway, US dollars killing everything, basically. Let's be honest. So that's what happens. That's what happens when you raise rates. But I think that's a good segue.
Yeah, good segue.
Good segue into sharing of the screen. So. All right, can you see my black canvas?
Okay. Oh yeah. So okay, Canva. Okay.
Yeah, we're in Canva. We're just going to have a bit of fun with the tankers, trying to explain something. Because traditionally, let's just start off with a bond, Arnie.
Yeah, talk to me.
And I'm going to bring it over here. Here is our bond.
Ah.
And do you want to just quickly give a 30-second, 45-second rundown of a bond? Because it is quite simple in nature.
Yeah, very simple. So a bond is basically a loan where you are going to be loaning an entity some of your money with a guarantee. Well, I shouldn't say guarantee, with the promise that you'll get that money back after a certain period of time. So typically the two types of bonds you'll see are either government bonds or corporate bonds. So when people talk about the risk-free rate, they're talking about US government bonds being like basically the closest thing you can get to guarantee of getting your money and a return, which is typically why the rates or the yield you would see on those instruments is lower than something, say, like a junk bond from a corporate that hasn't got very good balance sheet, because the risk of you not getting your money back is higher. So essentially that's it. So it's a loan, and then over the course of that loan, they pay you a coupon. Coupon typically paid about twice a year. So yeah, and typically the face value of a bond is around about $1,000. It can be different, but that's essentially what it is. So
yeah, yep. And we use for many things, like you said, corporates, governments. I mean, most famous, I think, where bonds really got huge were war bonds.
War bonds.
The American bonds, so the American public will go out there and buy a tranche of war bonds. I'd say the public these days. I mean, bonds were something very much back in the day that the public got involved in buying, whereas I'd say it's very much international governments and institutions.
Little interesting tidbit, if you want to learn more about it, there's a very, very good book and documentary series which I think you can find online by a bloke called Niall Ferguson, called The Ascent of Money. I think it's something like that, The Ascent of Money. Anyway, if I'm wrong, it's not far off, and he does talk about that exact thing you're talking about, Brad, financing with war bonds and how people made their fortunes off it initially.
Yep. I'm going to be looking that one up, mate. And look, where bonds have also come into play, let's also talk about it, is quantitative easing and stuff, right?
Yes.
And quantitative tightening, I would say as well, which is a new term coming up into the opposite of easing. And it actually comes into play in today's one. So we'll talk about that. But I mean, the quantitative easing was where the government would basically, the Reserve Bank would issue a bond and buy their own bond and create some liquidity in the market. And quantitative tightening is where suddenly all these reserve banks and central banks across the world, we've talked about it before on here, now own a lot of debt, right? And they've got to somehow unwind that. And,
either sell it or let it mature, right?
Or let it mature, right? And that's usually what happens, is they let it mature, but in some cases they need to also sell it, depending on if they've bought 10-year bonds and the rest of it. Because all the central banks also, now that they've got through COVID especially, need to start unwinding their balance sheets because they're heavily indebted. And so we're going to first of all talk about first of all what's been happening, I guess, is a big one. So let's have a look at this is the pound.
Yeah.
And as you can see, about a week ago, the pound
got close
actually
to parity.
Yeah, close to parity, down $1 pound four to $1. So almost a parity. And considering that the pound was at £4 to $1 after World War II, and it's been going down ever since. I mean, it dropped from £1.15 down to nearly parity within a couple of days. That sort of swing you're talking about, like, invertly, let's just say 12%. A 12-13% swing in a currency. It dropped, I think it was like 5, it's like 5-6%, then 5%. That sort of movement in currency markets is, and especially of kind of like, I would say the world's second, I think, I read somewhere it was the world's second most traded currency behind the US dollar.
Okay.
And that surprised me because I thought maybe the EU or
maybe the euro, yeah.
Well, yeah, the euro or the Chinese
the one
yeah, would be there, but UK pound there.
Is that the lowest? That must be the lowest it's ever been.
Ever.
Okay,
lowest ever, right? And this, obviously, yeah, there we go. I should have just looked up here, 12%. And this rattled markets. This could have gone a lot further, and we'll talk about that today. This could have destroyed, and I mean, at the moment, we will talk about kind of what saved it, which was the central bank coming in and stepping in. They're only stepping in until the 14th, and they're hoping that's enough time for markets to stabilize. But just to kind of show people, this was something that came out of nowhere. And when you say nowhere, hindsight's always a wonderful thing. Everyone can always see it coming after it's happened. But no one really saw this happening. And at one point, this had an actual chance, if the central bank didn't step in, of actually turning the UK economy into basically a hyperinflation currency. And that would have created turmoil, not just in the UK, but worldwide. And that's why I wanted to kind of like discuss it today. So let's leave that one over there for the moment. Let's talk about the protagonists or the people involved. We've got the Central Bank of England. We've got the new Truss government.
Yes.
It's not doing too well. They've only been in for a couple of weeks, already in a bit of trouble.
They're being the headlines. That bloke, what's his name? I forget it.
Swanee.
Kwasi.
I
can't remember.
UK Chancellor. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
His name is Kwasi Kwarteng.
Yeah.
He's not doing too well. I'm going to guess he's probably going to be gone pretty soon. But again, let's talk about the third protagonist. Is our defined benefit pension schemes, which are partly funded. All right, so start off with our defined benefit pension schemes over here, partly funded. What are they? They're not. Do you want to define them, actually, Arnie? There you go.
Yeah, defined benefit pension schemes. So, you know what? Where I work, some of these things still exist, but I won't mention that.
Crazy.
But they're not making any new ones, basically. So basically, what it
where
means
I work, we still have I used to work at the bank.
Yeah,
they're called our heritage products.
And, actually, you know what? Before my current employer, I used to work for GlaxoSmithKline, and they also had a few people still on these. So I think it was a very common thing across the world.
Very common.
Where it was basically instead of something like I won't say that, like a pension scheme that we currently enjoy, where you contribute to it and maybe an employer will match it, or they have to give a certain part. A defined benefit one is basically where you don't contribute at all, and the employer takes care of it for everyone who's in that scheme. And it's typically based on years of service and what position you end up at, and like a multiple of whatever your salary was at the time. And then it's paid in fixed amounts for the rest of your retirement until you pass away. RIP. So that's basically what a defined benefit pension scheme is.
And they're either fully funded, which is very rare, or they're partly funded.
And what you mean by that is fully funded is that the people who have to pay the pensions have the money sitting there ready to go, is what you're saying.
Correct. So let's just say I'm the government, or I'm Company A, Classic Client Smith. There we go, bang. And I've got liabilities of, let's just say, $10 billion, because that's how much I'm estimating I need to pay out to all the people that have these. And I may have about $4 billion in there. And of that, a lot of that money may be sitting in bonds. And then a proportion of that's got to be sitting in probably some growth equities, property, that kind of thing. And if I was fully funded, if I had all the money in there that I needed to pay it out, I could just dump it into bonds and then I ride the market, right? And we should be okay. But because we are not just in one asset class, we're across asset classes, but also interest rates start affecting asset class and the rest of it. I also will do something else, and that is bring in the hedge. And I thought I'd just get a picture of a hedge, which is pretty cool. And that protects, basically, when you're hedging something, you're buying a product. This became quite, let's just say, a dirty word in the global financial crisis when we start talking about derivatives. But there's a quiet little part of the market which creates derivatives of bonds on the ups and downs called LDIs. And basically, LDIs are generally created and issued by the world's biggest, you're talking about like, Bridgewater and the rest of it, that hold trillions of dollars. And they basically allow the hedging of interest rates. And so, and the reason why you want to do this is, for instance, if you need to go and report to pension regulators or you need to show your financials each year, what you don't want to be doing is showing huge swings. So you don't want to be saying, hey, look, we've only got $3 billion, and oh no, markets are gone, we've only got $1.5 billion left in the pension scheme, right? And so to enable that, you can go out and buy some derivatives and look to kind of hedge up, on interest rates and other things there. So pension schemes are part of what happened. We had the government and the new trust government, and the name of the one that we not very good at.
Let's call him Quasi.
His name's Quasi from now on. All right, so they did a couple of things. One thing that they announced recently was, for those that can't see that is me dumping some taxes into the rubbish bin. They are a conservative government and thought it was a great idea that even though you had the Central Bank of England raising interest rates, and even though you had the Central Bank of England saying that they're going to start unwinding their balance sheet and start selling bonds, they came out, new government, so Truss has taken over Boris, and they came out and announced two things. One was the kind of lowering of tax rates on those earning, I think it was over £150,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one that they did was a means tested. So this is everybody. I kind of want to put that song into there. They put in energy bills. So energy bills in Europe, as you can imagine, we've covered off Russia and energy bills.
Yeah.
We think energy bills bad here, not so bad. The estimated average energy bill is going to be about £2,500 to £3,000 per year.
Oh, Jesus.
And energy isn't just the home, it's everything, right? So why the UK already has runaway kind of inflation higher than the US, right? I think it's running about 9.5, 10, somewhere around there at the last count. And so what this does is create inflation throughout everything. So not just your power, but think about the cost of manufacturing goods, everything, cost of business, everything goes up. And so in an already fragile economy, the government has come out and said, we are going to cap energy bills for individuals at £1,000. And you say, okay, well, what will that cost? And the estimated cost, this one was 100 to 150 billion pounds.
Jesus.
Over the course of the next 2 years. And the cost of the tax one was about 45 billion pounds out to 2026.
So how are they funding it? How are they funding it?
Well, good questions. So, just letting you know, the 100 billion pounds is equal to 4% of GDP, just FYI.
Okay.
So let's say 200 billion pounds, 8% of GDP. But 4% maybe over 2 years, each year. And how are they going to fund it? They were going to fund it by our little friend here.
Okay. So borrowings.
There was no no kind of measures taken in place saying, well, okay, we're not going to get it from there, because they also weren't going to do the agreed corporate tax increase to the minimum. I think it was 15% that has been agreed by the G20 or whatever it is.
Okay.
And so this was a non-funded, and let's just say that most countries' bank balances, balance sheets at the moment, aren't looking too awesome after COVID and after Russia, right? So initially, just this, right, when they announced this a week ago, that's when you saw the first fall of the pound. You then had the pension schemes over here have to generally sell pounds or sell bonds to fund the pension scheme, right? Because people need to go out. So you had about 1 or 2 days later, the markets went, well, hang on a second. Not only is the pound dropping because the government is doing physical policy counter to monetary policy. So you've got the central bank going one way, which is I'm selling bonds and I'm also raising rates to try and control inflation. You know, the government come out and say we're in an inflationary environment, but what we're going to do is decrease taxes, so increase the amount of money, and we're also going to be putting a cap on energy, and we're not going to fund it, which are all inflationary items. So you have the central bank going, we're trying to control inflation. You got the government saying we're going the other way, and then you got these little pension funds over here. They probably weren't thinking too much. They're just kind of going, we need to sell some bonds. Now, if you notice, the central bank was going to sell some bonds. The government was going to fund all this by selling bonds, and the pension schemes were going to sell some bonds. Now, when the pension schemes take out derivatives, they have to stress test themselves. So under kind of regulations, they have to stress test and make sure they have enough capital, liquid capital, to be able to fund any kind of let's just say predefined moves in interest rates and the rest of it, to make sure that if the interest rates go suddenly this way or that way, they have enough money to cover their positions.
Also, why they're hedged, in case of any wild swings,
correct. And so, as part of, and they also, and so they also take out derivatives to obviously play a part of that. And when you take out derivatives and you start, I guess, multiplying and bringing in a bit of extra money into the equation, let's just say that, you open yourselves up to the swings even more so. And so while their stress test kind of was okay based on economic indicators and variables, their stress test didn't take into account that the central bank and the government were going to go in 2 different directions, and the markets weren't going to like that very much.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So all this happening at once is
all this happening at once. So
and rising interest rates.
And rising interest rates. So you had the first problem was this. All right. Was this. All right. So all these people, let's just zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
All these people were selling. And so you've got lots of people selling and not many buyers.
Yeah. And everyone wants to sell the bonds and is to fund things, and no one's buying them. Okay.
Yeah. So you also have private people over here that own bonds. Let's just say other holders over here that own lots of bonds.
Yeah.
Seeing what's happening and going, okay, I see what's happening here. Inflation's going to keep running. You're going to see bonds. You're trying to sell bonds. Bond prices are going to go down. I'm going to get rid of my bonds before everyone else does. So they were the first to move.
Yeah.
They were first to move. That started the downwards trajectory of the pound that you first saw, right? So that started the first bit here. Then when everyone else caught it on and the pension schemes started getting, so the LDIs they had using as hedging, they start asking for margin calls.
Extra capital, right? Yeah.
Extra capital to ensure their position could be held. Otherwise, they're going to close down their position.
Yeah, so to make sure that they could remain funded, they need the money. And if they don't have the money, I think what you're heading towards is they have to sell bonds.
Correct. So the only thing that these people have to actually, and I think they're called guilds or something.
They're called gilts. Yeah, gilts.
Gilts. Is it giltser or gildser?
GILT. Gilt.
GILT. All right. So we're going to put in a bit of text over here.
Yeah, love it.
we'll make it like this because it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Funky fresh
That good's
gilts.
Canva.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like that, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, we got these gilts. All right, so they in turn needed to sell gilts, which in turn these guys went, position. Then they needed to sell some more gilts.
And just keep selling those gilts.
And now the problem is when you start doing something like this, it starts becoming an angry tornado.
Yeah, feeding on itself, yeah.
It feeds on itself, right? So you've got a problem, your position's bad. Okay, I'll sell some gilts to collateralize. But now the price of bonds have come down, so you need to sell. Okay, I'll sell some to collateralize.
And because there's no willing,
there's not many buyers.
Not many buyers, so the price of these gilts is cratering at the same time.
Cratering, and that's why you saw the pound tumble, right? And what could have happened if this was left to free market? If this was left to free market, then literally no one was buying, everyone was selling, and you would have crashed bonds to nothing.
Yeah.
And they said that would have been done within hours.
So all the pension funds would have gone bust. They would have had to liquidate everything. And then anyone who needs a pension to survive isn't getting paid. And then all of those debts aren't getting serviced. And it's a huge domino effect.
And then you've got the pound. I mean, the pound would have recovered somewhat, right? But you've got the pound down at that, when the pound could drop down to pence on the dollar. That affects everything. Cost of goods now would be gone. The government wouldn't know what to do with themselves. I don't even want to think about that scenario. But what ended up happening was, without even a word, and there was a bit of pushback initially on, I guess, without any announcements or anything. But the Bank of England saw what was happening and instantly came up with a bond buying scheme. So what they did was,
bit of QE.
A bit of
that'll save us.
a bit of QE, exactly right. So they flipped. I think we can. I'm sure we can flip these little guys. So we go flip horizontal. Poof.
Boom.
Looks like in chess, they're starting to becoming queens. So they started balancing up. Right,
they became buyers. They're basically tankers. They're injecting some much needed liquidity into this scenario that Brad's showing us.
Correct.
And I might add, this is fantastic. Like the story you've painted, the picture you've painted with Canva, fantastic.
Well, there we go. Because we're trying to explain a complex
pool
thing. Pool party. And to the tune, let's just not get. We're to the tune of £62 billion.
Okay, big money.
So this is not it's not small money. This is rather large, 62 billion pounds. So roughly about 3% of their GDP. And so instead of selling bonds and unwinding their balance, they've actually added $62 billion. But in doing that, what they've done is they've reduced this little storm. It's probably only about that big now. Still spinning around a little bit. But a few things have happened. So because of the uncertainty in the market, now they're going to start selling again on the 14th. They're not going to buy any more after the 14th of October. They're getting the markets time to kind of come back to some sort of, I guess, normality. And, the pound has recovered, as shown by the lovely graph. We've recovered back up to about £1.15 and, £1.13 today. The reason why it's going down a little bit over the last day is there's still a bit of uncertainty in the market, right? In that these annuities still exist, these derivatives still exist, the hedges still exist. Now, one thing that's changed is the government has rolled back this part. The government has rolled back the tax cuts.
Didn't they only partially take some of it out, or have they since rolled the whole lot back?
Rolled the tax cuts back.
Okay.
Now, this year, they're still, at the moment, it's still in there. And where the IMF also commented on was, at the moment, capping energy at $1,000 across the board and not means testing it actually provides about a 3 to 4 times benefit to someone that is in the top 20% of
Yeah,
wealth.
and it's inflationary because if they don't need it and you're giving it to them anyway, it's just money wasted. I know what you're saying because obviously, like people who need the money, it's going to be
Correct.
beneficial. But like
Correct.
someone who's rich anyway,
Correct.
do they need $1,000? Like,
Correct. Also, what's going to happen once the banks start selling down? Interest rates are going to have to go up even harder now. So, Bank of England are saying because of your inflationary electricity bills, we're now going to have to actually raise interest rates harder. So there's going to be even more pain on that side, which obviously isn't a settling thing to outsiders looking in. And inflation is still running away, and banks have actually I think it was Patrick Boyle or something like that. So 942 lending products have been taken off the market. Now, the highest before this was the day that lockdowns were first introduced in 2020, where 420 lending products were taken off the market because of unsound economic environments where they're not necessarily confident at the moment on the markets, and therefore don't want to lend money at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of lenders have pulled products off the market. Your traditional banks are increasing now the cost of existing variable rates for home loans. And so this is all going to create some pressure now on the housing market, even more so. And so this one, whilst the big tornado has gone from a cat 40 down to a category 0.5, it's still a category 0.5, and they're not just sure if it's going to move around and blow up, somewhere else and get all angry. Right. But it just goes to show you that, like, you can have a top tier economy, one that the world would never have thought this could happen to, and out of nowhere, bang, could have wrecked the economy.
When you think about the timeline, it's like it's even worse now that like Brexit occurred. Like I know, like they left the union, and then we've had obviously things outside their control, COVID and the war, which has got the energy spike, which is also contributing to the already rising cost of living because of all the things we've discussed. But if they still had Brexit, the import-export would be sorted, but it's not. So
No, mate. Let's just say things have been getting a little bit interesting since 2015. Brexit was the first of many dominoes to start falling that we never thought would happen.
Yeah.
But look, this is everything, and this just shows, I guess, it's not to like scare people, but it is to, I guess, to educate people. With everything going on at the moment, it's quite hard to figure out what's going to be, possibly a stick that breaks the camel's back in some case. Very hard to go, okay, well, there's some new, there's some fixed term pensions out there that have this, and they use these derivatives and hedging to do this, and the bond markets, and then the government was going to do this, and the Reserve Bank was going to be doing, like, because of COVID. There's a lot of different moving parts at the moment. I think the more and more kind of storms and problems that kind of add up, the harder it is to kind of work out what's actually happening.
Anecdotally, well, if it's not anecdotally, it's factual. I think it was the IMF or the UN. Someone came out like a week or last week and said, USA, please stop raising rates. You're going to cause a global recession. You're putting a lot of pain on to the rest of the world. And I don't know if the Fed in America actually directly responded, but they've been adamant that they're going to continue to raise rates. So,
they're America first.
That's it.
And this is what happens when the reserve currency is the US dollar. And I mean, this is where we find ourselves. But it is going to be interesting to see what happens with, I say still watch this space around the BRICS reserve currency and see where that goes, which was announced, I don't know, a couple of months back in July, June, I think it was.
Yeah.
And start seeing some alternatives, because I think why everything was hunky-dory, everyone didn't mind the reserve currency being the US, especially allies.
Oh, yeah, we love it.
And the rest of it. But I think, with the world growing, like Africa growing, countries growing into their own and the rest of it, not necessarily now playing tag along to some big powers like Asia as well. I'm not just talking about China, whole of Asia.
Yeah.
I think some people are getting sick of going, hey, wait 1 second, you're kind of printing your way out of your problem. None of us can do that.
Yeah, they're exporting the problem.
You're exporting the problem to everyone else. So, well, that's our first Canva, sorry.
Canva, yeah.
Canva illustration explanation. If you like it, let us know.
Yeah, if you like it. I liked it. I liked it.
I liked it myself because it was fun playing with pictures. But what's going on, Arnie? What's quick news? What's happening?
Yeah. Let me hit you.
Elon's going to get a mention this time.
Oh, well, actually, let's start with that one. And then I actually do have some rapid fire news items prepared, but let's just talk about Elon quickly. So, Elon, the latest news is that it sounds like he said he is now he's happy to proceed with the original buy price of $54.20 a share, $44 billion. But the judge in the Delaware Court of Chancery has come out and said that, well, that's all well and good, but I still don't have the go ahead or the stay order from either side. So we're going to go ahead with the deposition. We're going to go ahead with the trial. And she made a comment about how the date that they were supposed to start saving all the information was X date. And then Elon's team has said, well, actually, this is the date we started saving information. And then she said, well, this is the date it was announced, and that's a significant period of time. I think she didn't accuse him, but she said there's a chance that you've gone ahead and deleted and destroyed evidence, and sounded like. And then she said something which is a bit ominous, like that warrants a consequence. I don't know what that consequence is yet. So this she means business, but long story
especially
short,
Delaware, my man.
Yeah. So long story short,
it's the center of it's the center of all the corporations in the US, and they don't mess around. And there's some talk. Some people, let's just say, more so on the right, and kind of, doesn't matter what Elon do, he's like the free speech king and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Can do no wrong. They were 1 week talking about how there's not a chance he's going to lose and all the rest of it, and then their explanation of this one is, he must see that, he must have suddenly worked it out that it's more beneficial for him. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, come on. He just didn't want to go to court. And, whether it's start getting involved in depositions and stuff, starting to actually have to go, it takes up a lot of time and energy and all the rest of it. And it's going to cause a publicity, and it's going to cause a complete disruption to all his other businesses.
Yeah. He might have to sell. Well, if any of that third-party funding falls through, he would have to sell more Tesla shares, which would put more
pressure at the moment.
Put more pressure on the price, and it's already down like an enormous amount in the last month. So, but what I will say is there's still actually a potential. I was reading this article. There's still a potential scenario where if the third-party funding does fall, sorry, not third-party. If some of the banks pull out, I believe there's a clause where he's able to get out just for the $1 billion break fee only. So I don't know. I'm not a legal expert.
I'm not a legal expert either. I just find it fascinating that
it feels like everyone in the financial world has become somewhat of a legal expert, and I just distance myself and go.
Since 2020, since COVID, everyone since 2020 has become an economic genius.
Oh yeah, they know all of it, mate. That's
why and a legal professor.
Leave me out of it. Let the court sort it out. I don't really care. I'm a Tesla shareholder, but I'll like.
As a Tesla shareholder, do you think that Elon should just maybe stop focusing on maybe coming up with plans to end the Ukraine war and plans for free speech?
You got to take the good with the bad, and he is enormous for the stock, and yeah, he does a lot of things. When you're a Tesla shareholder, it's a volatile ride. You expect him to do something silly and open his mouth. Do I like it? Do I like it? No, but I wouldn't have him any other way either. So, and at the end of the day, if he sells the shares, someone's going to buy them, and the company is still going to be a fantastic company, and it's still growing at an enormous rate, and the free cash flows in future are going to be massive. So it's like, for me, it's a nothing burger. It's like short-term noise. If you buy the dip, that's what I'm thinking, but that's not financial advice.
Buy the dip.
Do your own research. Anyway, so that's Twitter and Elon, and we'll wait and see what the court sorted out. But there's a few.
It's getting a bit interesting. I like it.
It's a super fascinating case just to watch and read about. So, what I will say is that I feel like Elon. I'll say this. Elon gets away with a lot of stuff. I think it might do him good to not get away with something for once.
Yeah.
So let's say that. Even though I feel like it's not a negative thing. Like I feel like he'll be able to.
Sometimes a bit of a slap across, an actual slap, and a bit of a realization that you can't get away from everything.
He'll be able to do good things with Twitter, even if he ever pays for it. So whatever.
Yeah. And look, he does do amazing stuff. Think about Iran. Think about Ukraine providing internet to people that don't actually have internet, and all the rest of it. So.
And then he also called that cave diver guy kitty tamp.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the word, but
No, we're not going to say that word.
Elon, man. I don't know. Anyway,
look, the guy sometimes just stays up a bit too late, not enough sleep, got a few too many things on, and a few too many children out there.
All right, wait, a few more rapid fires. Okay, I'll actually try and keep this rapid because we sort of spent a bit of time on that. Saudi Arabia has set November Arab light crude oil OSP at $6.35 BBL. So I don't know what's happening with that, but with the OPEC Plus news about how they're cutting production, that'll be interesting. Volkswagen's planning over a €1 billion investment in software joint venture in China. So that'll be interesting.
That's going to be really interesting.
Why, do you know? Have you read about that one?
No, not at all. But I do a lot of reading on China and a lot of reading on outsiders coming in and doing JVs, and very rarely from defense projects to transport to logistics to software. There's a reason why people don't play in that market. But hey, good luck to them.
See what happens. Google has requested more than 8 million units for its Pixel 7 range, and Google has told several suppliers it roughly aims to double its smartphone sales for 2023 compared to this year.
Well, considering that I am a Google fan, considering that I own a Google Pixel, Pixel 2, Pixel 3, and recently bought this Pixel 6 Pro, and then handed it back within 2 months and got an S22 Ultra. I don't know about their Pixel 7 because they killed all the people that loved Pixels in their Pixel 6. It was horrible. And so, interesting they're looking to double that one. But, watch the space.
This is my last piece of rapid fire, which I actually love this one. So just for a bit of context for the tankers, the famous subreddit at Wall Street Bets has a bit of a laugh at Jim Cramer's expense. And if you don't know who he is on CNBC Mad Money. He's a financial commentator, pretty interesting.
Basically doing what the opposite to whatever Jim Cramer says.
Well, yeah, basically that's the meme, right? It's like whatever he calls out as a good buy, you inverse it. If he says to sell, then you buy the hell out of it. And someone's actually formalized this, Brad, because they are making Jim Cramer ETFs coming, which inverse So they inverse the Jim Cramer stock picks that he says on TV. And so the tickers, if you want to check them out, tankers, are SJIM and LJIM. So the inverse one is SJ, and the long his picks one is LJ. So
this is probably my favorite quick fire thing that I've ever heard, that there's actually an ETF that's going to automate the opposite of Jim Cramer.
Well, you could go long or you can inverse him. So
what they need to do is a opposite of Jim Cramer quantified or qualified by Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Well, I would 100% invest in the Paul Pelosi. The Paul Pelosi.
So like, what do you think about it? Opposite of Jim Cramer, and then if that decision, the opposite, is what Paul Pelosi's doing.
Yeah. So just for context, tankers, Nancy Pelosi, they've been accused of front running news. So Paul Pelosi will buy something like Nvidia stock, and then Nancy Pelosi will push a bill through to like give heaps of money to US chip makers Nvidia and benefit from the price pump.
Or sell Nvidia stock and then 5 days later announce that Nvidia is not allowed to sell any AI chips to China and reduce their revenue by 13%, but they've already sold and then picked back up. Let's just say, for a career politician to have a net worth of Nancy Pelosi net worth, everybody, bit of fun, everybody. So Nancy Pelosi is currently sitting on worth 140 million, so nearly 200 million Australian dollars, and she has been a politician her entire life.
Do you know, I actually, there's a fantastic analysis. I can't remember where I read it. Otherwise, I would point everyone to it. And it basically tracked Nancy Pelosi or Paul Pelosi, whatever, trades. And it basically concluded that they are the best day traders ever.
It's somehow just they know when to sell and buy. I don't know how.
It's just pure coincidence.
Pure coincidence. And so let's go down, last but not least, into our 50-50s.
Oh, yes, I'm keen for this one. So
50-50 poker.
Poker theme. Hit me with it.
All right. Let's just say you are pre-flop. Everyone's got the same amount of money at the moment. So everyone's sitting on $1,000.
Okay.
And we are at a table of 8 players. And you've got pocket jacks.
The cursed hand.
The cursed hand, the devil hand. And you may be looking at these jacks, people, and tankers, you may think, though, these two gorgeous jacks looking back at you. are amazing cards, but they are not. They are cursed. And you've raised it. Someone else has re-raised. Someone else has gone all in. Someone else has called all in. Someone's folded. It's come to you, Arnie. There's been 3 all-ins. And it's come to you as the last one to act after your initial raise.
Okay.
What are you doing?
So I got jacks in hand. There's 3 all-ins.
Yep.
And I'm the last to act.
Yep. Are you folding or are you pressing all in? They're your options.
Do I know when to hold them? Do I know when to fold them? This is the 50-50. Okay. Oh, man, this is so difficult because, like you said, like we both said, jacks are the cursed hand because they look so good, but they're so beatable. Any queen, any king, any ace above it. And if there's people who have called all in, you'd think they're on some, maybe there's one bluff in there, but if there's 3 all-ins, some of them have got some strong cards, probably a pocket pair better than mine, or at least ace, king, ace, queen. So long story short, I would probably fold the jacks, even though it'd be a hard laydown. What would you do?
Fold the jacks.
Oh, okay, we're together.
We're together on this one. Reason being, there's probably some Muppets in there with ace, queen, ace, king. And I would say Muppet, but when I say Muppets, they shouldn't be in there with all in. But
or it's you and me with the 3-6 offsuit Julian.
Yeah, there could be some 3-6 Julians in there. All right, nothing wrong with that. But chances are I could be up against ace, queen, ace, king, which is a coin flip. And if anyone's got queens or kings or aces, then I'm pretty much dead. Unless I'm Andrew Hogman against Brad Tabone, and in which case 100% a jack would come out and he would beat me. So just what happens. So takers, that's our feel free to comment what you would do in that situation.
You know what though, if you change that scenario to say it's just heads up, so like you all in and I'm the last to act, I'd call
every day.
All day.
But like I said, I've done it so many times and lost.
And then lose with the stupid jacks.
Stupid Andy. Not stupid jacks. Just stupid Andy. All right, takers, hope you found today interesting. I quite let's just say our brains have kind of gone toward the end of the week, so apologies if we're rambling a little bit tonight. But we've enjoyed another week closer to 50, and let us know your thoughts.
Before we go, do you own a cricket bat?
No, I'll have to go get one.
I'm going to get one.
Yeah, mate, I bought a red hat. Let's be honest. I'll buy a cricket bat, all right? I'll do the cricket in the Sanders Bono hat. So
cheers, takers. Have a good one.
Enjoy it.